Welcome back to episode 2 of Taking Root, Scotland's Green Libraries. I'm one of your hosts, CILIPS Digital Assistant Leah Higgins.
I'm CILIPS Sector Development Manager Kirsten McQuarrie and the moderator of the Green Libraries Network.
And I'm Sean McNamara, Director of CILIPS Scotland. If you missed the first half of this podcast series, then please go and give that a listen first. We explain all of the green gibberish us and our guests will be using throughout this story. Don't forget that we also have a green jargon sheet with all of the phrases to keep track of during the episode.
Plus, the first episode lays the foundations for the roots of this story, as we hear from our very special guests, Christina Riley, founder of the Nature Library, and Alanka Norvik, Facilities Manager at Glasgow Women's Library, two incredible and quite literally growing institutions.
When it comes to harnessing the creative potential of libraries to engage communities in discussions about the climate and sustainability, we don't just sit in a podcast studio and talk about it. In 2023, at the CILIPS Annual Conference, we launched the Green Libraries Scotland Grant Fund, truly allowing us to walk the walk in supporting our members to enact projects they felt would best benefit their patrons. The fund was open to all libraries looking to engage with work on these topics and improve community action and engagement. However, members in 2024 weren't left green with envy, as the fund was reopened this year, and with an unprecedented amount of applications, we were able to fund 5 projects all across Scotland.
We've been fortunate enough to steal some time from the project leads at this year's cohort and hear more about their plans to embed sustainability into the heart of their library communities. With such a variety of projects this year, it truly highlights how many ways that libraries can play a part in environmental action. The team will talk us through some of the projects before we hear from the project leads themselves. Drying Green Herbarium from Inverclyde Libraries is a programme of engagement with local partners at the Watt Institution Herbarium, consisting of over 1,000 specimens gathered primarily from Inverclyde and its vicinity in the late 19th century, to create the Drying Green Herbarium based around South West Library's community garden. As the so-called dictionaries of the plant kingdom, herbaria offer unique perspectives on the main drivers of pollution, habitat change, climate change and invasive species. So this project will educate the community about their importance, whilst the library's educational garden more broadly addresses food insecurity, eases local environmental impact, provides stress relief and serves as a safe space for community connection.
The Mayfield Secret Garden project from Stirling Libraries is a holistic approach to library-led environmental action that integrates education, community engagement, sustainability and technology by taking back an overgrown garden space to benefit library and community centre users. The library will offer accessible workshops and educational programmes that blend the use of traditional library resources, i.e. books, e-books and e-magazines, with practical outdoor learning experiences on themes like biodiversity and upcycling, using Mayfield Secret Garden as a base from which to lead intergenerational citizen science projects and work with Stirling Library's existing makerspace.
Rambling Readers, Nurturing Natural Connections, North Lanarkshire Libraries. Growing a programme of outdoor walks for all ages to chat about books, the local environment and learn about local and global climate issues. Cumbernauld and Airdrie Libraries will function as natural connection hubs where practical and participatory sessions are hosted, focusing on themes including bird-inspired storytelling, nature writing, sustainable upcycling, craft and sewing, local conservation and natural heritage and more. We spoke to the project lead Gillian Hunt, community librarian in North Lanarkshire, about the project. Listen here.
Okay. So I'm Gillian Hunt and I'm a community librarian in North Lanarkshire. I manage 5 libraries in the North area and I'm also have the thematic remit for children and young people. So the title of the bid was Rambling Readers, Nurturing Natural Connections. Stole both of those titles, as you know, all good ideas do. And so the basis of it is 2 walking book groups, one based in Cumbernauld, one based in Airdrie, and they'll meet monthly, and then that's supported by other events around the same theme. So between now and the end of May, which is the funding period, we have monthly walking groups running, but in addition we've got other events. So we're kicking off, because we kick off on the programme here in Green Libraries Week. So we're having a trees walk from Trees, the charity Trees for Cities are coming to do a walk. We have a peace garden quite near the library, so we're doing a tree identification walk, and that's going to be a seasonal thing that will run between now and May. And they're going to do a whole programme of events for us. In addition to that, we're going to have some creative writing talks and some author events and some film events as well, running through between now and May, all with a sort of climate, natural connection theme. Some of them looking at global issues, some of them looking at local issues. So we're going to sort of have that running between now and May in both of the libraries. And yeah, we're looking forward to it. And we're also we're going to be backed up with obviously I've got my wee sort of pile of books here. I don't know if you can see, I've been looking at my book group collections here. So we're doing that. So obviously the one at Cumbernauld is definitely going to have like a natural theme as well. So it's going to be, the books are going to, they'll be fiction, but they'll have an outdoor theme. And then we'll have, in 2 libraries, we're going to have a dedicated bay of resources for the Nurturing Natural Connections project. And I like to think of it as another strand to your service, that we can say, well, this is something that we do. We have like a library without borders, that type of thing. We can go out and do things or bring people in. So I probably sort of, from a professional sense, I think it is that allowing that strand. I think, as a professional librarian, you're always looking for development opportunities. You're always thinking about, what can we do? It's about future-proofing your library. It's about developing your audience. It's just all about that. So something like that is nice, and it's nice to have a nice challenge and to do something different and to see if it works and, move to make that work. So that's a nice challenge sort of professionally. I think in terms of libraries, again, it's about just about sort of visibility, outreach, and just again like taking the library out into a new space and attracting a new audience. I think obviously there's one running in Airdrie, and I think Cumbernauld really lends itself well. Plus we have the additional issue where we're in the Cumbernauld Town Centre, which is sort of due for demolition in the next sort of 5 to 7 years probably. But people think, are the libraries still open? Is it because there's all sort of uncertainty about what's happening about the building and the town centre? So it's nice for us to be out and be visible and say we're actually, we're still here, and we're also out and about. So it's just about being there, about visibility in your community, about doing things that are relevant and interesting to people as well. And I think sort of that climate topic about climate, about development, about looking to the future is really relevant to a lot of people.
Threads of Change, making a difference one stitch at a time from Western Bartonshire Libraries, is utilising local libraries to teach children and young people new skills that will allow them to adopt lifelong sustainable practices for them and their families through basic sewing, repairing, embroidery and customisation. In a locality where 27.6% of children live in poverty, the 4th highest in Scotland, Threads of Change will equip youngsters disproportionately impacted by the climate crisis to reduce their carbon footprint in affordable and accessible ways, whilst also educating the community about the environmental and ethical impact of fast fashion, which contributes to around 300,000 tonnes of waste to landfill in the UK alone.
Growing Greener Highland Communities with High Life Highland Libraries is a project to develop 4 pilot library climate hubs, growing community climate engagement and education. Activities will include the creation of 2 new seed libraries, an after-school nature club for primary-aged children to encourage gardening, tree planting and recycling, as well as community cleanups, new climate engagement books and e-book library collections. We're very lucky to speak to Julie, the head of libraries, who's been working in partnership on the project with Imogen, who manages the Countryside Ranger Service. We asked them to share a bit about the project.
I'm Julie Corcoran, I'm head of libraries and I am lead for the project.
I'm Imogen Furlong and I manage the Countryside Ranger Service. We will be working in partnership with the library service to deliver various different green initiatives through the new library hubs.
So our project is called Growing Greener Highland Communities. We will be developing climate hubs throughout 4 of our libraries. Through the hubs, we hope to empower local communities to act on climate change, and we will be developing resources and activities at those hubs. So part of the core offering in there will be developing nature clubs, for example, for school-aged children. As Imogen mentioned there, we will also be developing 2 seed libraries as well. And we will be looking at consulting with local groups, community groups, to invite them to contribute towards that programme of activities as well. So I think through the resources and the activities, what we hope to do is give participants practical and affordable ways to adapt to act on climate change.
And part of the difficulty in tackling climate change is this feeling of powerlessness that so many people have. And what we would like to provide is a bit more hope, a bit more active hope, that people can have an effect, and over a larger area, lots of people have a really big effect, the butterfly effect. It may not feel at the outset that you can make a difference, but you really can make a difference. And our services working together is just an example of how we can make a difference. So we're very hopeful that we won't be stopping just at 4 hubs, but this is the start.
Absolutely. I love that, the butterfly effect.
I just wanted to mention that we're not doing this alone either. So we have the support of the Highlands and Islands Climate Hub, which is a Scottish government funded hub, which is there to, again, generate more community involvement in climate change. So that, there's a lot of training opportunities that they're providing as well. And there are more of these hubs being funded across Scotland, I believe. So there is external help there as well. So if there are any sort of libraries that are thinking, well, I don't really have those skills and experience to launch into this, there is support out there to support projects like this.
Local organisations are going to play such an important part in the project, as Imogen said there, even in terms of we're looking at developing the book collections at the moment, and we've been able to call upon some local research in terms of that collection. So a local organisation called Highland Adapts had worked with communities at the beginning of the year to develop a recommended reading list of books on the theme of environment, on climate, and we've been able to incorporate some of those titles into our collections. So yes, absolutely important role.
What do you both think will be the biggest benefit of this project to your libraries and your communities and your services?
So I think in terms of participants, I think that the main benefit for a community will be that they will hopefully come away feeling more equipped to adapt and act on climate change. I think in terms of benefits for the service, the project will hopefully help us to be more responsive, I think, in terms of the changing needs of our communities.
The other additional benefits is people won't feel so isolated with regards to this particular subject, because a lot of what you read about in the mainstream media is very apocalyptic. And I think by bringing people together in a social space, in a friendly and safe space, to work on these particular issues together, then people will feel more empowered, and they'll feel more connected to each other, and their own health and well-being will improve as a result. So I think that's another really tangible benefit to this project. And of course, having people coming into the library and using our space is also an incredibly important part of our service.
Yes, I mean, we were absolutely delighted to hear that we had been successful in securing funding, and I think we'd just like to thank the panel for seeing value within our project.
Another of our funding pots to provide support to the green libraries of the sector is the CILIPS Research Fund. Again, both this year and last have proven that research and practical applications of sustainability are of great and increasing relevance to the sector. Sean, can you share a bit about last year's LASTS project?
Certainly. LAST stands for Libraries as Agents of Sustainability Thinking in Scotland, and it comes from the University of Strathclyde, exploring the role of libraries in promoting sustainable thinking initiatives among Scottish school and public library users. So this was building on the findings of an ongoing SLIC Innovation and Development Fund project called Libraries for a Sustainable Future. So what LAST did was it developed an action plan and a toolkit for developing environmental literacy and sustainability. So this took on the work that the original SLIC funded project did. The original SLIC funded project did some research into what was going on with libraries, did some survey activities and created a database of some of that information for the researchers to look at. And then what LAST did is look to take that forward via this toolkit. So the project has two aims. I mean, partly it's to promote user awareness around environmental literacy and sustainable thinking, but it's also to inspire the libraries and the organisations and the librarians who work for them to carry out activities themselves to improve their sustainability, and as well as the structure that's being provided, trying to improve that environmental literacy and improve those practices. They also want to gather as much data about the activities going on. So I know that there is real enthusiasm to look at where we can take the project next, for example, creating some method for gathering data or understanding more about what our many libraries and librarians are doing. Certainly, it's clear that there is a lot of activity going on in this area, so the more that we can do to gather some of that and understand it more and inspire more people to do it, the better.
It's incredible to see this sort of research being presented as an option for the Research Fund, and to see the appetite for these evidence-based frameworks which make the work of sustainable development that little bit easier for professionals who already have a lot on their plate. Kirsten, since you're certified carbon literate, maybe you could share a little bit about this year's carbon literacy shareable course.
Absolutely. So becoming carbon literate, officially so, has been a really important part of my own professional and personal development, I should say, in the past year. And so it was especially exciting to see that one of this year's successful bids was the carbon literacy shareable course for libraries in collaboration with the National Library of Scotland. After undergoing the carbon literacy for museums training, the team at NLS felt that a toolkit more applicable and more tailored to the library and information sector would be of huge benefit. CILIPS agreed. We invited Lara and Julie, the two project leads, to share about the project at last year's Green Libraries gathering during Scotland's Climate Week. And this year we've decided to catch up with them again to learn more about the project 1 year on, just before it reaches fellow professionals this Green Libraries Week. So instead of us telling you about the project, we'll let Julie and Lara share all about it now.
Okay, so I'm Lara Quinney. I'm the Maps Reading Room Manager at the National Library of Scotland. But for the last 2 years, I've been seconded to spend part of my week working as the programme lead for our Climate Action Plan. So my role is to sort of try and work with colleagues across the library on what we can do sort of to embed sustainability in the library, and also to network with other organisations, other libraries, learn from each other, build partnerships.
Hi, and my name is Julie Bond. I'm Head of Collections Care for the National Library. So it's all about conservation and preservation in my team. And I would say that in my head, conservation is all about sustainability, because we're looking at caring for library collections for as long as we possibly can to make them accessible for our readers. So there's a link there in what it is that we're trying to do. So that kind of sparks my general interest in sustainability.
So the motivation for the project and applying for the funding seemed to be the lack of suitable training in this area, with you guys having undergone kind of similar training for museum staff. There was nothing really available which highlighted the clear link between libraries as a naturally sustainable model. So could you maybe share more about what you feel is the connection between these things, and how important do you feel this project and shareable course is for the library and information sector?
Yes, I think for us that was it. We had this really, really exciting, inspiring day of carbon literacy training using the museum's toolkit. which was a really good session for us. But I think we did also all feel by the end of the day that there was something missing about libraries as a sustainable model. I think that's that thing about libraries. We are just so well placed to support our communities. Libraries, it's all about communal resources. It's about borrowing rather than owning. It's about inclusive community spaces. There's just a reason, I think, why the word library is now being used for things like tool libraries, seed libraries, toy libraries. We're just all about that sharing resources and lowering our personal impact on the planet. And then when it comes to things like UN Sustainable Development Goals, we can contribute to all of those. We're just, libraries are brilliant, and more people should realise that. And we just felt the course should be something that celebrated libraries as a sustainable model.
Absolutely, I think the course was great, and the basis of it is still there in the work that we've done. So carbon literacy, it's of a standard that has been accredited, and the basis of the course is there. But we certainly felt that, and we very quickly uncovered that there are so many brilliant examples of what libraries are doing already to kind of build on that sustainable model and advocate for it. So we felt this was a really good opportunity for us to just highlight that a little bit and fly the flag for libraries, for sure.
No, that's brilliant. I love that point about advocating as well, because I think that's, no matter the topic in libraries, it's always something that needs to be done. So it was really great to kind of highlight that within this work as well. So you shared in the Green Libraries gathering that influence and learning from others was a really integral part of the climate action plan for the NLS. And I wonder, now that you've developed the course and are ready to start sharing it, did shared influence from others play as large a part as you'd kind of first imagined it would?
I think definitely. I think it's been so good with the wee project team we had going. We had librarians from public libraries, from health libraries, university libraries, and it's just been so great to hear from those different sectors, to talk about the different projects we've all got going, and to see some of the common challenges and some of the common themes coming out, but also be inspired by people saying, "Oh, we've done this." You think, "Oh yes, well, that's so good." And I think that's been really important for us. And I think we're trying to encourage people who come to the course to then join the Green Libraries Network, because then that's that brilliant forum where we can all ask each other questions and share ideas and keep up to date with what's going on. And that's just so brilliant.
Yeah, I'd echo that, Lara, that it's been excellent making those links with libraries that we weren't really connected to. So we are creating these networks, and it's great that there's the Green Libraries Network that as a home for that kind of connection to continue. I think it's been challenging as well, to work collectively. I mean, it's not always the easiest approach, and perhaps the quickest approach is just to get it done and do it ourselves. And but the challenge of that is to kind of open it up, bring other people on board, do that advocacy piece while you're developing the work at the same time. But I would say that having someone leading on the development of it, and that very much has been Lara for us, is essential, because otherwise it can kind of get a little bit lost, and it's not always at the top of the list of things to do. And Lara's very good at diplomatically chivying people, myself included, to get work done. So that has been really important part of the structure of pulling it all together.
So kind of touching on this idea of collective engagement and action, a really important part of the shareable course is just that it's shareable. Could you share with us how you envision this work will cascade and kind of make a difference within organisations once that first person has undertaken the training?
So the idea of the Carbon for Libraries course, what we're really hoping, what we would love to see is that when we train people, that when someone comes along and completes the course with us, that they then feel inspired to share it. We make all the course materials available, the full slides, all the trainers' notes, all the handouts and everything that's needed. Those are available for any librarians who've completed the course and would then like to take on cascading it to their colleagues, to other librarians in their area, so to sort of do that cascading, what you just basically do is complete a carbon literacy training session yourself, get that certification from the carbon literacy project. There's then a free 1 hour online session for facilitators that the carbon literacy project run, and they just ask sort of trainers to complete that to make sure that training takes place, following good practice. They also just go through all the documentation that's needed for the sessions that are run. But yeah, that's our real hope, that if we can train some librarians, that hopefully that they'll just pick this up and run with it, and the course will spread out. Roots and branches is the model that's described, because the whole hope is that you can train one librarian and then they'll spread that out to others, and it'll just keep hopefully growing and being relevant to lots of people.
Yeah, and it's a lovely model, I think, that works really well. And I suppose the museum sector is kind of slightly ahead of us in this game, because the museums toolkit's been around for a while, and I think the impact of that can be seen. And we're talking with the Carbon Literacy Project around how do we measure that impact. But what's really fantastic about the course is that it commits you to individual and collective action, and hopefully that's where the real impact comes, that people they sign up to make a change or do something differently, or work on something that will then increase their own personal impact. And for sure, a good way for that to happen is for the training to be picked up and delivered in different workplaces, in different groups, different communities, and that's where the real impact will come, because of that kind of widespread collective nature of it. And also Lara and I really need that support in terms of getting the training out there, because it's quite challenging to run these courses like single-handedly. So we just want it out there. That's really what we want. That's our big ambition, is that it's out there and there's lots of people engaging with it.
So you shared at the Green Libraries Gathering that you were looking for some excellent case studies to feed into the kind of librarification, as we're calling it, of the project. Are there any of those that you are able and willing to share with us?
That's actually a hard question, because there were lots of lovely case studies came out of it. I suppose for me, one favourite memory perhaps would be talking to some staff from Solent University Library, which is down Southampton. And Michaela and Isabel, they had set up clothes swaps in the library. So that was available for staff, students and the local community to all participate in, bringing clothes swappings and support sustainable fashion. And I have to say, I think they were really surprised when they got contacted by the National Library of Scotland out of the blue saying, tell us all about your clothes swaps, tell us how this is going. But they were so lovely. They were really generous with their time. They were sharing photos. They sent me their reports, their flyers, the statistics they had on their audience profiles and everything. And we had this lovely Teams call while they told me all about the project. But I have to say, I did feel like I was like really badly dressed person on the Teams call. They were both so smart. And at the end, it turned out so they had dressed specially for the call. And both of them, everything they were wearing was from the clothes swaps, and so they'd got themselves all this lovely, looking so gorgeous, so smart, and it was all from the clothes swap, and that was just so lovely and also really fun.
Yeah, I think Lara's been a genius at pulling all of these case studies together. I think that there's so much that touches on how libraries are working with communities, how we're a safe space, how we can share trusted information and be a support to people. And also there's a little bit around sort of the science and the building awareness as well, which is feeding through, and certainly that's coming through in some of the circles that I'm moving in at the moment around, how do we manage our buildings in a sustainable way in order to house our collections, but equally be a warm and welcoming space for our users. And so there are big challenges coming down the road with a lot of that, but it's certainly much more on the table as a discussion point than I've been aware of it being in the last few years. And I think that's a huge driver for a lot of us, obviously, is around the carbon impacts, but equally the kind of financial impacts. And I think that's how we're going to start making some real headway here, because when it touches on the on the budget and the bottom line, people start to listen a little bit more. So I think there's really exciting stuff to come, and I hope that we're able to continue updating the toolkit and signposting all of these wonderful case studies, because there's a whole section of the course that provides links to resources. So it's not just what we talk about on the day, because we're limited in what we can fit in, but there's so much more that we can share with participants.
So yeah, at the end of the Green Libraries gathering session, and you've maybe already touched on this slightly, but you invited the CILIPS audience to feed into the creation of the shareable course via the Padlet. You asked about the kind of resources, the practicalities of the session, what topics to include, and a few other things as well. So how helpful was this in shaping the project to kind of hear from this captive Green Libraries audience?
I think it was just really brilliant that you gave us that chance, that just as we were getting started on the project, that we could ask a really wide range of librarians and get a feel from them what they would like. So I think Julie and I are both aware, working for a national library, it's almost quite a sort of niche bit in libraries. There's not that many national libraries, reference libraries out there, and we were really keen that what we created would be relevant to library staff across the country and in a really wide range of sectors. So for us, that was really brilliant, being able to have that conversation at the beginning, and rather than create a course, then go out and say, what do you think? And if people go, oh, but you missed out mobile libraries, and where's the health library voice? And we wanted to start by including everyone in this conversation. I think the other really lovely thing from that session as well was we got a really brilliant project member. Sarah Bruce joined us from NHS Wales Libraries, who's been a really great member of the project team. So it was great for both ideas, and also getting us a really good team member. So for us, it was a really good session.
I think that's what's been so great working with CILIPS all the way through, and massive thanks for the funding, because we couldn't have done it without you. But it does open up huge networks that when you're working, you're kind of at your desk and you've got a big project ahead of you, and you think, well, how am I going to do this? It's like, well, put it out there. And when Lara did put it out there, so much support came our way. We probably could have doubled our stakeholder group quite easily, but then it would have just been slightly unmanageable. So it's tapping into something that's already out there. It's an area of real interest, and people are doing such good work that it was almost a kind of privilege to be able to make contact with these people and pull them in and just take all the contents of their brain and use it, which is it's such a lovely way to work, and as Lara says, to feel like it, to make sure it's consultative, and that the end product is something that will be taken up and used and supported across the sector, which is what we were aiming for.
No, that's amazing to hear. And I mean, you're thanking us, but we're thanking you for doing the work and creating this resource, because it's going to be something that we can only anticipate will have a huge impact, and that, hopefully what you're saying about the interactions between different people, that's kind of really echoed in how valuable it will be to the sector. So yeah, we've kind of come to the end of this conversation, but is there anything else that either of you would like to share about the process or the resource itself that we've not kind of already touched on?
I just very quickly wanted to say that there's been something in the water, I think, around carbon literacy recently, because I was at a conference last week where they had a platform to talk about the new Carbon Literacy for Archives course. So that's been developed by the National Archives, and I just find it really interesting that this is growing arms and legs at the moment.
And I think I'd just like to say a big thank you to the librarians across the country who have been happy to chat with me, to share the great work they've been doing, who've been really generous with their time, with sharing images and giving permission for those to go in the pack, because it's just been so inspiring. There's been so many times I've just come off the call and I've gone back in my workroom with this huge grin on my face because of what I've been hearing and just how lovely it is. And I think what I really, really hope is that inspiration is something that we have captured in the course, and that the librarians who come and do the training will go away with that smile on their face and feeling empowered to take action and embed some of this sustainable practice in their own workplaces, everything across, because that's what we've set out to try and achieve.
So to round off our story, I think we should consider the future. As after all, this work is so crucial to future-proof the planet to ensure it is healthy and happy for future generations. So what are both of your hopes for the future of green libraries?
Above all, what I want to see is library-led environmental sustainability becoming a key part of library advocacy. It's very often the same decision makers who are threatening to close or cut libraries who have recognised a climate emergency. And what we want to do is make sure the message gets out there that libraries, as Cicero understood many centuries, if not millennia ago, that libraries and nature are inextricably linked, and working together we can benefit the whole of society. It's so exciting to see the depth and breadth of environmental projects taking place across Scotland's libraries. And what I would like to say to our professionals above all else is that very often it's not a question of more. You're already doing this work. You are already embodying and representing, sharing resources, sharing knowledge at the heart of your communities. So we want to make sure that message reaches decision makers.
Perhaps on the same theme, I think I'd quite like to see that political buy-in extend to the top level of national government, so that the role of libraries can really be valued in what they're doing around carbon literacy, around environmental sustainability, and other related areas. I think we've seen the Scottish Government work with our colleagues at SLEC on some great initiatives so far, and I think there's definitely some room now to build on those, and for libraries to really be now empowered to improve people's understanding of all these areas. Libraries are such a good resource. We've over 500 all across Scotland in terms of public libraries, many more school libraries and other types of libraries too that we've mentioned today. There's a whole network there that is perfectly placed to inspire their users to take action themselves to improve their sustainability and really lead from the front. But obviously this costs money. This requires some support and coordination. So as much of that can be done, then I would really like to see that, so that the great work that's gone on so far can be built upon, and we can really see libraries at the forefront of sustainability in Scotland.
We decided to ask Christina Riley from the Nature Library and Annika Norvik from the Glasgow Women's Library about their ideas of what the future of green libraries should look like. Listen now. So, as we come to the end of this podcast episode, or I should rather say this podcast segment, we wanted to explore and envision what the future of green libraries might look like. We were all in agreement that the future of libraries to carry out all of the critical and amazing work we've already shared depends on the investments in funding and support which both the environment and libraries receive. Kirsten and I work for CILIPS, the Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals in Scotland. Annika, you're here on behalf of the Glasgow Women's Library, and Christina, you're here representing the Nature Library. All three of us are charities working with small teams in very limited capacity, and we each have a charitable mission that transcends party political debates. So we were wondering what some of our thoughts were about the changes we need to see inside and out with our sector to let library-led environmental action reach its full potential. That's a very loaded question. Guys, I'm sorry about that one.
There's so much. I mean, you said the word there, funding and support, and you said earlier as well, I think that, we all know the value of libraries. It seems strange to me that we have to fight for them. It seems like, I feel like local authorities and government should be like having friendly like competitions of like who can have the best library, who can have the most amazing like hub, and instead they're just getting cut and cut back. So I think from their perspective, just being more active in supporting these places and changing the way that we value whatever growth or success or progress is within a community or within a country. Because you've talked about Annika, like growing our skills and our knowledge exchange, like that is a form of progress. Like that's, if we're taking that back, then I don't know if we can say we're progressing as a society. Really.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Just more support for organizations and charities and libraries. On the top of my mind, just the capacity for just filling funding applications is so hard to find, and it's kind of crucial for these kind of big changes to happen. So yeah, just more support of kind of knowledge and information and resources.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's that's really the key thing, is about the fact that we are all small teams of 1 or 3 or however many people are at the Glasgow Women's Library. It's you know, there's only so much capacity to kind of make these changes and to do these things. But I really feel that, you know, and Sean, we can cut this out, that I think if people are proposing funding cuts to libraries, I think they have to visit that library first. I think that should be a law.
Yes, I can second that law.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah. Just that's there should be more scrutiny over how is funding cut to a library, or how are these decisions made. Like, I know that is it like in law that libraries or councils have to provide adequate library services.
Yeah, that's right, for public libraries only. So they have to secure the provision of adequate library facilities for all persons resident in their area. And I am that sad. I have that memorized.
Yes, that's why I looked at you, because I thought you might. But there's no definition of what adequate is. So like, we need definition of that, and we need them to recognize that, okay, now that we have that, you can see that actually it's not being provided here, and how can we change that, and why is it not being provided? Like, why?
I'm so struck by the contrast there, Christina, when you're saying the dream would be a competition of who's got the most brilliant library, who's got the most incredible, impactful services, versus adequate. You can hear it in the word.
I know, adequate. Like, we can do better than that. And I think that's, I mean, I was thinking of, when we talked about climate and what the future looks like, and there's a lot more books coming out now, I think, that are talking about hopeful futures and like how amazing life could be if we, like, what if we did it right? I stole that because a book just came out today, which is called What If We Did It Right? And I love that title. So yeah, like, what would the future look like if we actually like funded our libraries and had these? It's happening in Europe, I think, unless it was just, I mean, I've only looked a little bit about it, but there seems to be quite a lot of support, more support than in this country, in Europe, for like their libraries. I think Finland has like a huge kind of like hub in their city centre, which provide like podcast recording stations, like all these different things. So yeah, what's the reason for holding that back? I mean, funding, of course, but if there is money, then where is it going instead of libraries, and why?
Yeah. And yeah, just what you're talking about, kind of being able to envision different futures and envisioning, what if you do get it right, is so important. I think what our work also kind of revolves around a lot is working with artists in order to envision these futures, and just looking for creative responses. I think that's really important in order to kind of stay hopeful and just imagine kind of radical ways of what the future can look like.
Totally. I think maybe it hasn't kind of come up, because I think for all of us it goes without saying, but that's maybe the connection between libraries and the environment and climate, is because these people are storytellers, and that's how we can get the information. It just connects with us so much more, whereas we need it in the news and we need it from governments, we need it from researchers and academics, but to have it told to us, like to everyone, like just the general public as a story, you just think, oh, that's okay. So yeah, creative ways of learning about something. Yeah, it's such a difference.
I think there's also a level of catharsis with that as well. People are able to really explore these things without it having to be, really academic or really kind of, facts and figures. It can very much be something that we have this conversation and we can kind of explore the different possibilities. And I think, whilst there's times that we look at the planet and we kind of are quite kind of down and glum about it, there's also times where we can envision, as you say, what if we did it right? And these things that we could do with the changes that we are trying to make, and the changes that libraries are really kind of crucial in expanding throughout communities, and kind of giving communities the kind of empowerment to be able to make some of these changes. So this isn't actually in the script, but I wondered what each of you thought about, plans for the future for your own libraries, whether there's anything in the works or whether there's anything that you would just love to see that you've maybe not quite got there yet. Like, what does the future of your library look like in terms of the kind of its sustainability or its greenness?
So we're aiming to reach operational net zero by 2030, which includes installing renewables and generating our own energy. And I think we would love to, in the future, generate more energy that we need, and then be able to kind of go to our neighbors and, share this energy. So I'm hoping big plans, something like that in the future. And just always looking for better ways to kind of optimize our building and make it more green, and also just helping the communities and people around us to do the same.
That's not even empowering the communities, it's actually powering the communities with on the grid. No, that's amazing.
I'm obsessed with that, and it just really embodies, and I know it's a grand ambition in the best possible way, so it will be a step at a time, but just imagine if we got it right. Imagine what that would look like. Everybody that lives in the vicinity of a library, they can turn around and say, here's renewable energy, you're a part of our grid, rather than stuck in the toxic industrial complexes that are perpetuating this crisis, that actually libraries in a very, very tangible, impactful way are embodying the solution, embodying an alternative, as you said the word radical earlier, Annika, a radical alternative way of life for the whole community around them.
Yeah. Christina, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, my first thought, which isn't my actual answer, but whenever I think of the future of the library, it's currently a buzzer entry. And I'm like, I would love to have a front door. I would love for people to be able to just walk in. So yeah, for me, because again, I suppose it's a rented space at the moment, and it's permanent-ish, but long-term, but not permanent. So I don't have any building dreams, but at the moment it's just like the more people I can meet in the community, because I still feel quite new, both as the nature library and also very new to this location. It's in Irvine, which is where I grew up, but the nature library hasn't specifically been there before. So just trying to contact schools and more local politicians, and just kind of making them know that I'm here, the books are here.
Yes. Hopefully with a front door.
Yes, one day, one can dream.
I wanted to circle back at the end of the conversation to what we began with, and that is women. Ecofeminism fills the shelves of both your libraries, and I wondered if either of you had any book recommendations which people could borrow the next time they visit.
Why, I was thinking of Vandana Shiva when I thought about this question, because I came across her through the women's library, because I was browsing the environment section in there and was like, oh, and I hadn't heard the name. It was a book called Stolen Harvest, and it was all about like the global issues with growing food, because again, if the climate affects everyone, like food is the thing that connects absolutely everyone, so how it's grown is hugely important. So that was a really big one for me. I've been reading a lot more fiction lately as well, which I've been really enjoying. It used to, when the nature library started, it was like all non-fiction, which I love, and it was really helpful, but I think coming back to that storytelling thing, so I would say anything by Ursula Le Guin is like my all-time favorite. Also any Mary Oliver, if we're talking about hope, then I think Mary. Oh yes. She says something, she says hope is a fighter and a screamer, and I just love that.
Love that. Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, Christina, I was gonna say Ursula Le Guin.
Well, we can keep talking about her.
No, it's no. But yeah, I think just anything by her, especially Dispossessed, is just amazing for kind of imagining different futures and different ways of, organizing societies. But currently, I've been reading Nan Shepherd's The Living Mountain for the first time, and it's so incredible, and it's so beautifully written, and just has made me really want to go and wander in the Cairngorms.
Love that. It's so nice, because that's one of the first ones I read when I started reading women. It's like their voice in nature writing, because I just thought I've never read about nature written from this perspective before. When it's so powerful, but it's not, she doesn't talk about getting to the top of the mountain. It's about being in it almost, and it's so physical or so like tactile. Yeah, absolutely agree with that one.
Taking to the highest point is not the only way to climb a mountain. Actually, Gabby, another member of the Green Creative Cluster at Glasgow Women's Library, her alias is Skylark Guiding, which is all women running, trail running, walking, hiking, and I think I spotted that quote on her website because that's the ethos of her kind of mountain days. That she does this incredible no rush hike, And it's like, you know, the spirit is that we're going to enjoy it, women together enjoying the outdoors.
Amazing, yeah.
And tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? That Mary Oliver. So
yeah.
Visit the library.
Visit the library. I
Yes.
suppose maybe there's
Exactly.
a lesson in that as well, that it's not about getting to the biggest and the best library like we were talking about earlier on. Maybe it's just about that message of supporting your local library, and maybe one day we'll get to that point.
Yeah.
Just enjoying it for what it is just now, and that will in turn create investment and opportunity, hopefully. So
that was actual poetry there. I love that. Poetry to our ears at CILIPS.
I was also, there was some, it's not a nature book, but I know Glasgow Women's Library had Annabelle Hirsch recently. She wrote like the Woman in 101 Objects, is it? And I was watching her event at Edinburgh International Book Festival, and she was talking about like, it's a healed femur, is like an object that kind of describes or represents the moment that kind of our species became society or became a community, was because that shows that somebody stopped to heal another person. Whereas, like, you know, people always talk about, oh, it would be like an axe or something that bashed something with or killed someone with, and it's like, no, it would be, you can only do that for so long and then everyone's gone, you know. You need people to heal. So I think that, again, like reimagining different futures where it's hopeful and caring, and it's like libraries they're quiet spaces and they're quite unassuming, but like, you know, they're very powerful as well. So
that's amazing. Yeah, I think that's a lovely note to end on.
So the Nature Library is currently located at 122B Montgomery Street in Irvine, Ayrshire, which is just right next to Irvine train station. And it does travel around Scotland still as well. So if you follow the Nature Library on Instagram or Twitter, probably Instagram is more reliable, at the Nature Lib, LIB, then details of that are there.
And Glasgow Women's Library can be found in Bridgeton in the east end of Glasgow. We're on Landressa Street, just around the corner from the Bridgeton train station. And we're on Instagram and X and all the other social medias as well. Yeah.
Look out for the library garden and you'll find it. Brilliant. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us to hear about how green libraries are taking root across Scotland. Please take a look at the show notes for the episode, as there are plenty of sources and resources listed below.
There are also plenty of practical ways that you can support Green Libraries this Green Libraries Week and beyond. At an organisational level, you can consider signing up to the Green Libraries Manifesto, a collection of 7 key pledges of library-led environmental action that are relevant for all sectors and all areas of the UK and indeed beyond. We have a number of international signatories too by now. As individual professionals, you're also very welcome to join our Green Libraries Network. This is a free, friendly online Basecamp space where fellow green champions across lists share ideas and inspiration. Simply contact us using the details coming up to become part of it.
Regardless of where you are on your sustainability journey, you can keep up to date with all of our work and get in touch with us through all of our social media channels, or just email us on admin@cilips.org.uk. For social media, we currently have an Instagram channel, which is @CILIP_Scotland. You can look for CILIPS on LinkedIn, or just check out our website at www.cilips.org.uk and have a look at the news pages. Thanks.